Hi everyone, welcome once again to A.O.S Abroad. Thank you very, very much for joining today's episode. Really do appreciate you for coming on board. And I do wish every Muslim faithful Eid Mubarak in areas. Yes, because last week was really hectic. We had a lot of celebration, we had a lot of catching up to do, and as a result of that, we didn't have our usual live sessions. I know for those that have actually been following us, you could have noticed that we didn't have any live session last week. Yes, because it was festivities period and a lot of things happened. We couldn't actually come on live. But today we are live. Today we have a lot of things to discuss. Even after today, the next live session, so we're going to be touching on many of the articles and many of the news broadcasts that we had left behind last week. Do you understand? So we are going to be catching up with a lot. So today's article or today's topic is centered on troubles for asylum seekers. I'm going to be wondering, what do we mean? Yeah, troubles for asylum seekers in Canada as the new unfavorable bill emerges. So we have a bill, Bill C12, which emerged, and a lot of people had so many issues with. You understand? In fact, right now, those that are sought asylum or those that are in the process of seeking asylum, they may have to face some of the harsh realities of their decisions. And as a result of that, today we are going to be discussing. For those of you who are still far back or who are still contemplating, trying to decide if you want to go through the asylum seeking route, or if you are already in that route, you are already, you understand, um, you have already joined the bandwagon of those that are seeking asylum. We are going to be looking inwards to discuss what do you need to know about the new bill, the new Canadian bill, the bill C2 of the Canadian of Canadian Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, IRCC. So that being said, let's take it one by one. And today we're going to be making use of the article, the CIC news article, which is the Canadian Immigration and Citizenship news platform, cicnews.com. We're going to be making use of their platform to go through what we have today, to discuss with you what you need to know about the Bill C2. So, as their own article states, it states that the new bill would rein in on what would rein in asylum claims, and that is to tell us that there are going to be some unfavorable issues that those that are seeking asylum would have to contend with. You understand, with this new bill. So, this article was written by Derek Shank on June 3rd, 2025. So it was written at exactly last week, this time last week. And it says that many foreign nationals will become ineligible to apply for asylum in Canada should a newly tabled bill become law. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a consultant. I am not. That's my own disclaimer. I don't even consider myself as a travel agent. But many of those that have been asking us about Canada immigration, one of the things you have to look into or understand in line with the policies that are coming up is also the bills that you need to know about, the bills that when they say something is a bill before it is actually approved to go through some stages, and once it goes through some approval stages, if it is accepted, it's going to become law. And once it becomes law, that means the IRCC, the Immigrations, Refugee and Citizenship Canada, would have to what would have to adhere to that law when it comes to immigration, refugees, and citizenship. So this particular one is centered on refugee claims. Refugee claims. So they said under the proposed legislation, a foreign national would be ineligible. Now look at that. A foreign national would be ineligible, would not be eligible to claim refugee protection if they entered Canada after June 24, 2020. and make the claim more than 1 year after their day of entry. Now, this is a very sensitive issue. I want every one of us to really understand what this means. What they are trying to tell us is that if you entered Canada after the pandemic, you understand, you entered Canada after June 24, 2020, and you waited so long in Canada to apply for asylum. You didn't apply for asylum immediately. You didn't apply for asylum within the first 12 months. The first 12 months, you didn't apply for asylum. Then you may become ineligible because of the fact that you waited for more than a year to apply for your asylum. You understand? In Canada. Now that's the first thing. They also said that the bill would also make ineligible foreign nationals who entered Canada along the Canada-US land border outside a port of entry. Now, this is a very crucial thing. Why are we even talking about this today? The reason why we're talking about this is because many people see refugee claims or asylum seeking as a last resort, and they see it as a way that they can actually stay back in the country, which of course it is. But again, it may actually backfire on you if you are just applying, but you don't know how eligible you are. So we want to make you understand that if you want to become eligible, you have to understand the requirements that will make you eligible. And to understand the requirements, you have to adhere to what is prevalent or what is allowed, what is accepted in the new bill, should in case it becomes law. We are not yet sure if it will become law, if it will be approved, you understand, by the House to actually make it, to pass it, you understand, into legislation. But should in case it becomes law, you need to know what to expect and how you could prepare yourself for the eventualities. Now, they said for those who actually come into Canada through the Canada-US border, maybe for instance, those that are fleeing, you understand, deportation in the US. If you are fleeing deportation, you don't want the Donald Trump era to actually affect you. You understand how they are deporting people, and you want to use Canada as a last resort to, you understand, stay back in North America. They are telling you right now that the bill will make those foreign nationals become ineligible if they entered through that what, the Canada-US land border, the land border. Now, they said under the current legislation, foreign nationals are not ineligible. In other words, they are eligible for claiming refugee status on account of having crossed irregularly from the US, provided they make their claim at least 14 days after having entered Canada. So, what are they saying in essence? What they are saying is that before this new bill, if it is going to be passed to law, those that come in from the US, maybe for instance, you are a Nigerian and you flee from US to Canada, and you come into Canada maybe today, you are allowed within today and the next 2 weeks, do you understand, to actually apply for refugee status, to, you understand, to seek asylum basically within 14 days. But if you don't do it within 14 days, you will not be eligible again. Do you understand? But now they're not even saying whether it is 14 days or not. So far, you entered through the Canada US land border. For this new bill, the bill C2, you are going to be automatically ineligible to apply for permanent, for refugee status or refugee protection. Now let's move on. They said refugee claims made prior to the introduction of the bill would be exempt from these two new grounds of ineligibility, which, if the bill becomes law, will apply retroactively to any claims made after the bill's introduction. Now, what do they mean by this? What they are telling us is that if you are part of those that have applied for refugee claims, you have sought asylum before this bill becomes law, then you are exempted from the changes. You are exempted from the rounds of on the grounds of ineligibility. What are the two grounds? The two grounds is number one, if you came into Canada after June 2020, and you waited for more than a year in Canada to apply for refugee status, you are not going to be eligible. The second thing, or the second grounds of ineligibility, is if you entered Canada through the what? The Canada-US land border. If you enter through the Canada-US land border, you become automatically ineligible without any amount of days to what? To apply for refugee status. Now let's move on. What are they saying? They are telling us that, oh, how am I yawning? The bill allows for the regulations to make exceptions to these two new grounds for ineligibility. So even though we know the two grounds of ineligibility, you understand, waiting from 1 year after your entry after 2020, you understand, and entering through the Canada-US land border, they still allow the regulations. You understand, the regulators. That means the visa officers, or you understand, those that are in charge, maybe like the refugee board, to what? To give some exceptions to the rule, to give some exceptions to the grounds of what? Ineligibility. So if they see your case as a case that should actually be considered, they can, part of their own discretion, consider you, but you can't force them to consider you. They will decide if you are eligible to be considered or not. Now, let's move on. The bill would also provide the governor in council with powers that they can exercise if they believe it is in the public interest, including abilities to one, make an order for certain immigration applications not to be accepted for processing. Two, make an order for the processing of certain applications to be suspended or terminated. And three, cancel, suspend, or vary immigration documents, or to impose or vary conditions on these documents. Now let's bring that down into layman terms. Let's really dissect and understand what they mean. Now, the governing council, which is one of the those in charge, those in charge of what? Of immigration matters, at the level of the asylum seeking or refugee claims, the states that the law, the bill, is now giving them power to not accept a program or an application for processing. If, for instance, your application is not backed up with fact, or your application lacks some credence, or your application lacks some, you understand, some truth to it, then it can be actually rejected for application. Two, they could suspend application or terminate application. They could cancel application and say, okay, yes, they are no more accepting application. They could suspend it for some time. You understand? The governor in council would have that power under this bill to actually act in the good interest or in the best interest of the public in Canada. And the same governor in council can also what? Cancel, suspend, or even vary immigration documents, and can impose some conditions to those documents. Thank you for me, Gabby. I see you, Gabby 12. I see you joined and you like our live session. Thank you very much. So, what are we saying in essence in this live session? What we are saying is that now refugee claims seeking asylum is no more straightforward as it used to be. It will no longer be as easy as you just coming into the country, maybe through the Canada-US border, and actually seeking asylum. It is not going to be easy again that, oh, I've stayed in Canada for more than 1 year, I've not gotten my permanent resident status, I've tried all I can, okay, let me go through the what? Go through the asylum and go and seek asylum. It's not going to be as easy as that under this new bill, should in case it actually becomes law. Now, the bill would also provide increased scope of powers in what in requesting individuals to appear for examination before immigration officials. Now, what do they mean by this? What they mean by this, before, asylum claimants, refugee, seekers, many of them, they always go in front of a jury or a judge. They always go to the board, the immigration refugee board. Sometimes they go, in front of the court to actually talk about their scenario in line or in addition or in cooperation or combination with their what? With their lawyers. Now they are saying that there will be more increased scope of power in requesting individuals. So basically, you yourself, yes, you may be accompanied by the lawyer, you may be accompanied by the consultant, but you yourself would most likely get to actually appear before the what? Appear before the board more times than usual right now, because they will give them increased power to, vet applications more. And in line with vetting the applications more, it's not just going to be about what you submitted, what your lawyer stated, and what you feel or they feel you should actually be going through. They would ask you questions. You understand? They would ask you questions, come to me, actually request you to come to the board or come to the court to explain yourself. That maybe, for instance, why do you feel you are persecuted in your country? Okay, you have said it on the application, but they may ask you more questions to elaborate more on your claims. That, okay, do you mean that your life is threatened in your own country? Do you mean that they want to kill you in your own country? Do you think that you are endangered, you are threatened in your own? They would ask you more questions and engage you more if this bill is actually put in place than before, where the bill or the refugee claims were actually easier for people to actually navigate. Now, they are saying that the Bill C2 is an act representing or respecting certain measures relating to the security of the border between Canada and the United States, and respecting other related security measures, entered its first reading on 3rd June 2025. Now, what are they saying in essence? Sometimes you may see some jargons in law. You understand, I am not a lawyer myself. I don't consider myself a lawyer, a consultant, or an attorney. But based on what I have read from what the discussions online, they are telling us that some of the reasons why this bill is going to be enacted into law, some of the reasons why it has the potential of becoming law, is that Canada wants to actually limit the amount of people that are coming into the country as asylum seekers through the United States border, the land border, especially the land borders. They are trying to actually tighten the what? Tighten the ease that people were actually having to apply for asylum once they enter Canada through the US land borders. So it is not going to be easy, or it's not going to be available for many people to come in through the land borders and seek asylum. Do you understand? And many people that we know that are going through the land borders is because these are people that are either scheduled for deportation, or people that, you understand, are at risk of their visa expiring or things like that, and they just want another what? They want another chance or another option towards staying back permanently or staying back for a longer time in North America. Now, what are they saying here? They are telling us that the bill has passed the first reading on 3rd June 2025, which was last week Tuesday. And they are telling us, for this bill to become law in Canada, bills must go through 3 readings and be passed by the House of Commons and the Senate, and then it would receive the royal assent. Now, they have told us that the first first reading has taken place on the 3rd of June 2025. We are expecting the next reading, you understand? And after that, the final reading, which is the third reading. If it is not going to be passed to law, it may not get to the third reading. But if it is going to be passed to law, and if it is going to become what? If it is going to become law, whereby it will be much more difficult for refugees or asylum seekers to, you understand, be able to file claims, then it is going to go through the three readings and receive what? Receive that royal asset. Now, for you that you are actually learning about this Bill C2 right now, you need to know some additional immigration provisions. They said the bill also contains provisions that would one authorize immigration officers to terminate the processing of applications under prescribed circumstances. Now, this is a huge blow on even those that have sought asylum before, those that have applied for refugee status before. What they are telling us that immigration officers could cancel, they could terminate, they could stop the processing of applications that have been submitted before based on some certain conditions. And if they feel that your own application has actually met some of those conditions, you understand, your application could be cancelled. That is number one. Number two, they said immigration officers can cancel, suspend, or vary immigration documents under prescribed circumstances. Under the certain circumstances, some of the circumstances may be those two grounds of ineligibility. That number one, if you came into Canada in the year or after the year 2020, June 2020, and you applied for asylum more than 1 year of you being in Canada, they may cancel it. And they may also cancel or suspend or vary documents based on the fact that you entered through the Canada-US border. They are telling us immigration officers can also require persons to appear for examination under certain circumstances. I think we have said this before, that now they will be much more stricter. They will be looking into applications more. They will be much more centered on, oh, okay, they should see the applicant live and direct in their office or anywhere that they tell you to come to, and now scrutinize you, examine you, that are you really someone that is worth to be given asylum to? Are you really are you really the person that needs protection, the protection of Canadian government, or you are just someone that is looking for a way out and you understand you don't really qualify for the asylum seeking? Now, again, they said the immigration minister can also designate a representative for persons under 18 years of age for immigration proceedings. So when they say they should designate someone that is of lesser age, someone that is underage, someone that is still a child, do you understand? That means they could designate whether the consultant, they could designate whether a family member, they could designate a friend, they could designate people that are working for the government to actually represent children. You understand? So it represents children in what? In immigration proceedings. Now, the immigration minister can also specify the information and documents required for refugee claims. So yes, many lawyers, many consultants already know some of the documents that they require for refugee claims. But the immigration minister could actually ask for more documents. The immigration minister could actually tell you to gather some documents that you have not even had knowledge of that is required for refugee status before or asylum claims. So now they are giving them more flexibility to actually require more, to do more, and to be much more stricter on asylum claims. Now, also, they said the immigration minister can also determine that the certain refugee claims which have not yet been referred have been withdrawn. You understand? So they could see, okay, for those that sought asylum, just like in the cases of many people that have sought asylum before but withdrew their applications, you understand? The immigration minister could also look into it and determine these claims that are not yet referred, you understand, to the IRB, which is the Immigration Refugee Board, and to actually get them withdrawn. And lastly, the Refugee Protection Division can also determine that certain claims which have not yet been deferred have been what abandoned under certain circumstances. So in certain circumstances where maybe the person that actually submitted the application didn't follow up with the application or didn't provide the necessary documentations that they require to continue working on the application, you understand? They could consider that kind of application abandoned, and that could lead to, of course, the rejection or the refusal of that application. The proposed legislation would also require what? Would also require the Immigration Department to suspend proceedings for a refugee claim if the claimant is outside of Canada. So what do they mean by this? They mean if you are currently seeking to understand, become a refugee in Canada, but you are not physically present in Canada, then of course, instead of them taking you serious, they could decide to, you understand, reject your application, refuse to process your application, you understand, and they could suspend that particular application. Now, this bill 2 also proposes amendments to allow for what increased disclosure of information to other government departments. And this is something that Canada has been very, very careful about privacy laws. They have been very, very careful about how they share their information. And that's why some government officials or some government departments like IRCC do not share your information with like CRA, which is the Canadian Refugee Agency, or they don't share your documents with, you understand, the Canadian Armed Forces, or you understand, various organizations or departments like that. But with this new bill, what you are saying is that Canada will allow IRCC and IRB to share your personal information with other government departments. And what may that actually cost for you? That may, for instance, if you said a different thing to one organization, a different thing to another organization, you understand, another government department, that could come to actually bite you later on in the future. Because if they see that your biodata is not consistent in 2 to 3 different government departments, that may be a reason for misrepresentation. That may be a reason that they feel that you don't actually want the refugee claim, and perhaps you were lying or you were withholding some facts whilst you were applying for your refugee claim. So you have to be very careful when it comes to filling out forms on all what on all government departments you understand websites. Make sure you fill the forms as they ought to, note what you fill in each form, and make sure that anytime you're filling a separate form that asks for similar information, always be putting the exact information that you actually get to submit in the first or in other departments. Now we have come to the end of the article that we were actually discussing today, which is the CICnews.com article that talks about new bill would rein in asylum claims, you understand, in Canada. Now they ask me that, okay, with all what we have said, how does it affect me? What summary for me to really understand the article? Now let me summarize this in brief. There are 4 to 5 ways for you to be able to come into Canada. 4 to 5 ways. You can come into Canada as a student under what we know as the study permit to become an international student in Canada studying. Number two, you may come into Canada as a temporary foreign worker under the work permit route. In other words, you are working for a year or two before you actually go back to your home country. Number three, you could come into Canada as a visitor or as a tourist, whereby you just come and tour the country or come and visit family and friends, and you go back to your what to your home country. Number four, you can come into Canada directly from your home country as a permanent resident. So you actually apply for PR visa, the permanent residency visa, you get it, and you come to stay in Canada permanently, and even eventually become a citizen. But the last way many people know about is to come into Canada as a refugee or to seek asylum in Canada when you finally land in the country. Do you understand? And there's something that you need to understand. Every program, every pathway, every route that you come through has its own eligibility criteria. For students, for instance, you say you need to get admission, you need to have a proof of funds and things like that. You understand? As a work permit holder, you need to actually seek for jobs, get a job, get the labor market impact assessment report, the LMIA report from your employer, and have the opportunity to come into Canada. When you are coming in as a visitor, most likely you have to have enough funds to support yourself. You have to have invitation letter from the person that is, you understand, inviting you, or you understand, have some travel itinerary to show where you are going to go to in the country. And for the permanent resident status, that one is even much. You need to actually get the required language score. You need to get the required work experience. You need to get the required educational background and things like that. But when it comes to asylum seeking, unlike the others, is more or less passive, because this pathway is a pathway that allows people that have been marginalized, people that have been persecuted, people that are facing death threats, people that are facing um, exploitation, people that are facing issues in either their marital status, either their national status, their locality, their community, their region. If, for instance, your life is threatened and maybe they want to kill you, or they want to get to make you suffer by virtue of yourself, or make you suffer with your friends and your family, or make you suffer um, with your kids or with your spouse, then this asylum route is a route that many people are actually taking to flee persecution, to flee being what exploited, being spoiled, being threatened, being raped, being killed, basically. So if you are part of those that want to seek asylum, you understand, to avoid all those, you have to understand that asylum right now is not just an easy way out. Some people tried writing IELTS, they didn't get IELTS, and because of that, they want to come into Canada as a visitor first, and through visiting, they come and seek asylum later on. That may not really help you. You understand? Especially if you are not eligible, or if you fall under the ineligibility status. So you have to note what makes you eligible for permanent residence through asylum seeking. Because of course, once your asylum seeking is approved, Canada would issue you what? Your permanent resident visa. But if it was not approved, instead of them issuing you the PR status, you are going to what? Get deported. And many people feel that, oh, permanent resident programs like Express Entry, like PMP, like others, they require me to do IELTS, they require me to actually get my work experience letter, they require me to get my credentials submitted to Canada. Oh, I can't go through all those stress. Let me just come through asylum seeking. If you come through asylum seeking, it may work for you, of course, if you have a good story to actually tell. But now, if it work for you or not is not the issue. But the issue is that this bill C2 is going to make it much more difficult for the average person to just become an asylum seeker, or to become a refugee protected person. You will need more than what you were actually thinking of before to actually show the visa officer, the immigration officer, that you are truly in need of the protection of Canada. Now, that being said, is there any way forward? Is there any way out? Of course, there is always a way out. One of the ways out are part of the four options I mentioned before. Do you understand? Whether through the study permit, the work permit, the visitor visa, the permanent residence. Some people, we always ask follow-up questions once we talk about this, that, okay, what is your own desire? What do you want to actually achieve when you come into Canada? Because based on what you want to achieve, what you want to succeed with, we are going to now analyze which of the packages, which of the programs allows you to do what you want to do, you understand, easily without any difficulty. Some people will say, oh, I want to come and study in Canada, get an international degree. Then study permit will be enough for you. Some will say, no, I'm seeking a greener pasture. I want to come and work. Okay, if you want to come and work, you have to decide which kind of work do you want to do. Is it that you want to work full time, go or work what they call it permanently in the country, or you want to work temporarily, whereby you are working for 1 or 2 years. Once your contract expires, you go back to your home country. And many people say, "Ah, no, I want to stay here permanently." Okay, if you want to stay here permanently, do you want to come as a visitor or as a tourist? You understand? Be able to actually do anything you want apart from studying or working officially for more than 8 months, or you understand, more than 1 year, as the case may be. And you understand? Going back to your country after you have finished touring. Some people say, ah, no, 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 I don't want. Okay, if that is it, then do you want to stay here permanently to be able to work full time, to be able to work for two, three employers at the same time if you so desire, and to have the opportunity to build a life here in Canada? Some people say, oh, yes, I would like to actually do that. If you like to do that, then another alternative to asylum seeking is to work on your permanent residence. And if you want to work on a permanent residence program, you have to know that we have over 80 plus different programs. There are so many programs to choose from. So you have to decide that do you want to go through the express entry route, which is the most competitive, or do you want to go through the PMP, the provincial nominee program route, or through the QSW program, the Quebec Skilled Worker Program, or the RCIP, the Rural Community Immigration Pilot, or the FCIP, the Francophone Community Immigration Pilot, or any other pilot or programs that you actually know about that is out there. Now, that begs the question, which of these pathways would you, that you're actually listening to, prefer? Is it the study permit? Is it the work permit? Is it the visitor visa? Is it the refugee status or the refugee claim, or the what? Or the permanent resident pathway? Put it on the comment section and let us actually hear from you. The one you decide and the one you would like to actually go through. Now, if you have any questions, please drop it on the comment section. We really like to take it right now. If you don't, then please don't forget to like this live session. Copy the live session, or how will I say, as a copy, share the live session as a copy. Share the live session with your friends and your family. And also, don't forget to also hit the notification bell after you subscribe, whether to our Facebook, to our Instagram, to our what they call it, TikTok, to YouTube. You understand? Subscribe, hit the notification bell to get notified anytime we come on live to actually have a live session. Don't forget that every week at least we have one live session. And last week we didn't have a live session because of the festivities, but now we are making up for it and would always come on live more frequently right now. So don't forget to actually put us on that bookmark, hit the notification to get notified anytime we drop, you understand, a content, or anytime we come on live. So thank you very much, everyone. If we don't have any questions, then we'll actually call it a day. And don't forget to always join us. The next, okay, Tomori, thank you very much for liking the live on TikTok. So don't forget to always join us. Same place, same time, the next live sessions that we actually have, whether be it today, tomorrow, or next. And please, if you have any questions, even after this live session, drop it on the comment section, or actually DM us, send a direct message, and we'll respond to you. Our virtual assistants will do justice to actually responding to you. And if you are part of those who want to work with our immigration lawyer or our consultant, or you want to work on your permanent resident status, then don't forget to visit our website, aos.name.ng, to get started. If you are on any of those platforms, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, just go on our profile and you see the link on the website section. So thank you very much, everyone, once again, and do have a lovely day ahead. Bye for now.